the work that we're supposed to do in the year, at the end of the year or every quarterly, it's basically done. The work that you have done, that we are supposed to do, didn't do the impact. Okay, you did the work, but what was the impact? Whether you were able to achieve the impact. If there was no impact, then maybe the work would be reshuffled a bit, would be changed a bit, because basically at the end of the day, the impact, what did you achieve? What was the main impact? Whether anyone benefited from it, what is the main thing? So monetary aspect in that way, maybe.
Can you tell me, give me one example of how you would measure impact?
Measure impacts in the sense, for instance, if I put a research paper in the portal, just a simple example, research paper, or if I conduct a training, 10 people have come for the training. After the end of the training, everyone, at the end of the training, people will write there, okay, they liked the training or they didn't like the training. But after a month or maybe after a year, do they get back to you? Maybe within 3 months, do they get back to you and say, okay, they like the program, they need some more from us? That's the kind of impact we basically value. Not at the end of the training, okay, I like this training, and then they forget about it, you also forget about it. Because that's the kind of impact we want. Maybe within 3 months, 4 months, maybe after a year, people are responding to us after a year, okay, we like this program, we are facing some difficulties, can you help with this? Or we have formulated some of the programs, these are the things like that. So that's the kind of impact we want.
Wonderful.
Very strong
How they are
monitoring mechanism. We have we measure and monitor both the quality and quantity of the work. We use various project management tools to monitor and assess all the performance of our teammates.
So within 3IE we do a lot of work in the area of policy influencing. Actually encouraging the research teams to become policy entrepreneurs. And so really we're trying to develop, to incentivize them and put forward some different kind of services and requirements that helps the research teams in this area. But we also are trying to monitor their policy engagement activities. So we are working in this area, we're working with a consortium of think tanks, including ODI, Consult, SEPA and CPEC. So each of them having a different regional focus, and they are helping us developing some M&E tools to policy influence and an M&E framework, and they're also trying to harvest all the stories that are coming out of each of their research projects. So yeah, we're working in this area in collaboration with them.
Yes, we as I shared in our last discussion, we have this learning session every week. We used to have every week, but now we are having it every month. So in that learning event, we reflect, and we also give feedback to one another, how you are performing, how the things are going on, and how we also give a suggestion how it can be improved. So we do have that mechanism of monitoring and evaluation for everyone in our organization.
Wonderful, thank you.
You've been asked several times, but we started off in 2007, and this is something that people haven't thought of doing. At that time when we started, there weren't too many people who thought that information should be put in the open or public domain, and they weren't sure that biodiversity information especially should be put in the public domain. So two questions: one, should information be put in the public domain? And two, whether biodiversity information should be put in the public domain, because information on biodiversity can be misused. So for example, if you track a tiger and if you put up information saying, I saw this tiger here, you might be making it more sensitive to predation, to poaching. Who takes responsibility for something like that? Does the portal take responsibility because you're allowing somebody to put up information like that and making it accessible to somebody who can misuse it? So our effort in the last 5 years has been mainly to even get people to understand that when information is put in the public domain, it can not only help people who use the information but also people who contribute that information. And that even though biodiversity is something that can be so sensitive, it's important that people understand what is happening for them to change policy. Policy change cannot just depend upon researchers or policy makers. People can influence policy by articulating what they understand. So for example, people understand tigers because tigers are so beautiful. People feel a connection to it, and you read so much about it in newsprint, and you see so many documentaries about how tigers are vanishing. But this is not the case for species like spiders. People think spiders are disgusting and they don't need to be conserved. Or a snail. They don't think a snail needs to be conserved. They think snails can be eaten. Snails are pests. They eat up things themselves. But snails too need to be conserved, butterflies too need to be conserved. And the moment people can make this connection because they see it in a form that they understand, and they see it again and again, the engagement with it increases. They see other people being interested, say their friends or colleagues. They get interested and they start having opinions. It's only when they have opinions can they then start trying to influence policy. So for example, in Bangalore, there's this huge demand for space to build companies and houses, housing complexes, and so constantly trees are being cut, and our roads are lined with trees, and these trees are sometimes several years old, and they're native species of trees. They're not species that have been introduced from somewhere else, and so they're very rare now because they have no commercial value as such, but they have aesthetic and cultural value. But recently we had a group who actually went mapping all the trees that had been planned to be cut on a road, mapping their girth. Identifying the girth helps in identifying age and how many years a tree has been there, what species of tree it is, whether it's native or not, and putting up that information on a mapping platform that we provide. And a lot of people actually went back and looked at the data, and it made sense to them because somebody had actually done something that they've been thinking about but never really looked at. And if out of 17 trees, 15 trees are native species of trees, and you know that native species are precious. And all of these trees are going to be cut because they're in numbers. They make a greater difference. So there were protests. There were people who walked along that road refusing to let government authorities cut those trees without any accounting of whether those trees could be transported and regrown in some other place, translocated and regrown in some other place. Just making the government accountable for the trees that they were cutting, that's one step in the right direction. It might not be an impact in the sense that the government anyway went ahead and cut those trees, but it is an impact in the right direction because people are getting aware of it. Today the effort is disorganized, but tomorrow it might be more organized. More people might do it in more places. And these are people who are living in these spaces and use these roads and need houses. And these are the people who are saying, no, we don't think we need houses at the cost of this. So now we started thinking that we never thought that somebody would use it in this way. So we started thinking that because of the context that we work in, we're working on biodiversity, and people don't normally think of economic value for species. It's difficult to measure trends in normal terms. What we do is we put out information that we think that people might be interested in because this information is in a way that they can understand and use, and we talk to people to find out how they're using the information so that we can go back and use their feedback to make the information more useful to them. But we haven't yet defined parameters except in the research community, where we know that researchers do look at information because we provide scientifically credible information. People look at it, people use that information. But that's not the group that we're targeting, because researchers can communicate amongst themselves without needing a portal to. This is to bring different groups of people from different disciplines and different walks of life to talk about a shared resource in a common space. So we haven't been able to find a method yet, because we're still in the process of creating awareness for this kind of space to exist.
It does, but not to the extent how it's being done at IDS, at a different phases of the project or different phases of your work. It's not in a systematic way. It's done. It's done once in a while.
So what type of monitoring and evaluation do you undertake?
I think it's for the betterment of our project, we need to assess that the usage of the database and how it's being used by the different users. In fact, how we can market it better way, so that the more and more number of users who can come and make use of the database.